Metheral. I'm a 4th generation witch, and I'm here today to talk to you about the coronavirus, how to prevent it, what the NHS England says, and then I'm going to give you an additional layer of protection, which is a spell to help you stop catching the disease in the very first place. So I'm not here today to talk a load of rubbish about the coronavirus. I want to tell you what NHS England, as of today's date, have said in the prevention of catching this disease. Now, you need to do this, all these steps that NHS England suggest, because the spell will not work on its own. You need to do this first, make sure you're doing it properly, and then you can add the spell in as an additional layer of protection. So, what do NHS England say? Well, of course, the number one way to catch coronavirus is to pick it up in your hands. And because you spend all your time touching your face, you touch your face about 16 times an hour, you must wash your hands. It's really, very, very simple. Wash your hands under hot water. A friend of mine's father, who happens to be a deacon, he says the Hail Mary twice through whilst washing his hands, and he finds this the perfect amount of time to get the hot water and soap to do its magic. And so I would suggest that you find something that lasts the same length as 2 Hail Marys and do that whilst you're washing your hands. The hand washing is the most important, and you must do it when you go out in public, before you go out in public, preferably during if you can, whenever you go to the loo, whenever you see a basin really, is the ideal opportunity to wash your hands. So the second thing that you should do, which is really quite obvious, is that do not have any physical contact with those who may be infected. This is not necessarily easy to determine though. You could be saying hello to someone who's infected, doesn't know it, at any given moment of the day or night. Or not, as the case may be, because it is quite rare at the moment, in this country at least. So what our healthcare professionals are saying is that when you go out into public, don't shake hands and say hello. See a friend, you might give them a hug and a kiss hello. Don't do that. Just say, hi, stay back, coronavirus. Because the physical contact is where you're most likely to pick up this disease. So as I mentioned earlier, you are liable to touch your face all the time, 16 times an hour. You might do it some more, depending on what you're doing, really. And this is one of the most probable ways that you can pick up the virus when out in public. So avoid touching your face, neck and mouth area when you're out. Well, if you do, make sure you wash your hands first. I mean, it's really difficult that, because I'm always doing this and, just generally scratching or whatever I'm doing. So it is a conscious decision. That's a bit difficult, that one. Anyway, the next thing that the NHS do is say if you experience any symptoms, you must self-isolate for a minimum of 7 days. Minimum. But that I reckon that's 7 days after you feel better. So what you must look out for are the following symptoms. You might get a cough or a high temperature or both. Maybe a runny nose, maybe a sore throat, maybe aching bones, feeling of malaise, difficulty breathing. Difficulty breathing is sort of wheeziness rather than you can't actually breathe. These are the general symptoms of this particular coronavirus. However, if you do experience any of these symptoms, please self-isolate, medicate yourself with over-the-counter remedies for flu, make sure you get rest, plenty of fluid, and generally keep out of the way of the public. It's very difficult to keep out of the way of family members, especially if you're in the same house, but just follow basic hygiene rules. Wash your hands every time that you are in contact with them and they are in contact with you. And I would even go so far as to suggest they wear a mask around you and you just try to be not around them. Self-isolation means exactly that. So it's highly unlikely that you will catch the coronavirus and really experience these terrible symptoms and have danger of death unless you've got some underlying health problems. They do estimate that 95% of the people will go through their life, catch this disease, know nothing about it, and all is well with them. However, this is not a guaranteed preventative cure, but I can give you an additional layer of protection. But before we get into this spell, I just want to say that it's actually really difficult. I'm going to teach you a spell because I feel that you need to know this, but it's pretty advanced magic, this, and advanced witchcraft. So if you feel a bit silly doing it or you're not sure, just carry on, because even if you don't quite get the spell right, you'll probably give yourself a little additional layer of protection. It won't necessarily be the full protection, but anything is better than nothing. The first thing that we need to do with this spell is get some help. Now, this is not help from another person, it's help from the world of spirit. So if ever you knew somebody who in this life on earth was a doctor or a nurse or a caregiver, it could be a caregiver in a hospital or a hospice, or a caregiver even in an old people's home, someone who used their life to care for the sick, then you can ask that person to be your spiritual helper in this spell. However, you might not know a single person who has died who was in the healthcare professional, so you can call upon someone else. If you are female or most associate with the female, then you can call upon the Norse goddess Eira, who used to live on top of a mountain, and any woman who used to climb the top of the mountain, she would automatically heal, because she was the goddess of healing. But what if you are male? Well, then the goddess that you need to call on is the goddess Gefjun, who is most associated, bizarrely, with ploughing and fertility and abundance. However, in this instance, my spiritual guide and my coven and I have all got together and talked and realised that this is the most appropriate person to help you if you don't have a personal healthcare professional at hand. So Goddess Gefjun if you are male, and the Goddess Eira if you are female. So the first part of the spell for coronavirus is to ask the spirit guide that you have decided on to help. Now, I would do this by simply being on my own in a room, centering myself, and then calling out their name aloud. So if you are calling to the Goddess Eira, I would say, Goddess Eira, I would be most grateful if you could join me here because I wish to do a spell to prevent me catching the coronavirus. Likewise, if you're calling on your health professional, I would say the same sort of thing. You know, I could say, dear Bob, could you come and help me, please? Because I wish to do a spell to prevent us getting the coronavirus. It's really important to communicate out loud with your spirit help that you're calling in, because they aren't telepaths necessarily. They're not going to just mind read you. So call out to them and tell them why you want them to come and what you want them to do. So when you've asked them to come, give them a little time to turn up, sort of 10, 15 minutes, and just, prepare yourself for what you're going to do next. It's just politeness to let them come. I tend to use my pendulum to dowse to see if they've arrived or not, so I can check it. But if you're not adept at the pendulum, just, go with your gut. You'll sort of feel it if you've got any affinity for this, whether that spirit guide is here to help you. If not, just go with give them 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, say, I do hope you're here, spirit, whatever the spirit that you've called in, whatever the goddess you've called in, and then carry on. So now comes the difficult bit. Now you are going to mix your prana, which is your power, your magical energy, with that of your spirit helper. And here's how you're going to do it. You're going to imagine there's an enormous bubble above your head, and you're going to energize and inject that bubble with your prana. And at the same time, your spirit helper is going to do the same thing, mixing both your powers within that bubble above your head. So before you do this, just make sure that you and your spirit helper both understand that this is what you're going to do. So you need to speak out loud to your spirit helper and say, I would like you to inject your power into this bubble above my head, which is going to help us prevent the coronavirus. So the amount of time it's going to take you to put your prana into that bubble is going to vary. It's not generally going to be very long. So if you concentrate and think, I'm going to put my prana into the bubble, and then when your mind starts wandering and you think, oh, I've done the washing, oh, I wonder what this is up to, that is the time when your bubble is at maximum power and you can stop injecting it with yours. Your spirit guide will automatically do this with you, and they will know exactly how much power to put into this bubble because they're in the world of spirit and they can see the bubble, because we can't, but they can. So once you've got your bubble at maximum power above your head, you can walk around and go and gather your loved ones and your family members and your animals, whoever you want, and gather them around you, and then mentally just burst that bubble. And it'll rain down a filmy layer over every single person in that room and animal, protecting them from the coronavirus. It's a great all-encompassing spell, but you have to do it in conjunction with all the other things that NHS England tell you to do, which is wash your hands, avoid touching your face, don't go out and have physical contact with infected people, self-isolate. If you want to just self-isolate anyway because you're over 70, for example, that's a great thing to do, etc., etc. Now, as I said earlier, this spell is advanced magic, You're talking with the spirit world, you're communicating and working with the spirit world. You don't have any parameters that you can see or touch or use to tell you that each part of the spell is done. If you're adept at the pendulum, you can use your pendulum to say, is the spirit guide here? Have I done the bubble correctly? Is it time now to rain it down? Am I doing this right? Etc. However, you might not be good at the pendulum, and so therefore I would say just go with an instinct. It's better to do this spell and rubbish some of the steps up, and you'll get a little bit of protection, than not do any of the spell and get no protection. It is really hard, and you make you feel really stupid doing it. And the other thing you can do is do it with another person. So the three of you, so you, the other human person there who's alive and living, and the spirit helper, because you only need one, can all get together and do a bubble. So if you're not used to working with the spirit world and using your prana to such an extent within a spell, you may well feel drained and exhausted afterwards. Don't worry, this is a sign that the spell's worked. It's not you getting coronavirus. Rest up, eat some nice things, enjoy your loved ones, enjoy your animals, whatever is most appropriate for you, have a bath. All of these things will help you replenish that prana that you've used in that spell, in that bubble. And well done, congratulations. You've done your first very advanced magic spell, and it's a bit tiring, isn't it? So finally, I just wanted to say, if you have got a little bit drained and are feeling a little bit exhausted, buy a beautiful flowering hyacinth and put them in your bedroom so that you can inhale their scent and their energy overnight. They're incredibly rejuvenating, and also they're beautiful and they smell divine. They cannot fail but to lift one's spirits. So finally, I hope you like this video. If you want to see any more videos, please subscribe to my channel and make sure you hit the notification button. And in the meantime, stay well, self-isolate if need be, and I'll see you in the next video.
Here is the magnificent Ginny Metheral, one of the few witches left in the wild. Subscribe to her channel and protect her future habitat.